What up, y'all? I'm JT, Chef Tickles, the Alaskan Sniper. I'm here with your boy Chris Easy, Deuces -1, Chris Evans.
What up? What up?
We're joined here with our man, Big Daddy, the boy himself, Faraz Sani,
What it do, baby?
DB the Assassin, Sharp Knuckles.
How's it going?
And let's get into it. This is Hoop Session. What's up, boys? Welcome back. Episode 11 of Hoop Session. Back with Chris Easy, Faraz, DB. Today we're going to be talking about who we're predicting to be our preseason award winners, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, etc. We're less than a week away from the start of the season, so we're all super stoked about that. So before we actually see any basketball for this season, it's been, 11 weeks for some players and like 9 months for other players. So we're going to talk about MVP, six-man, Coach of the Year, etc. So who wants to start it off with Rookie of the Year? Who do we think is going to be Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, who wants to take that? I'll jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, man. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I'll jump in, man. This one was I actually haven't been keeping up with college basketball at all lately, so this one was a little bit tough for me. What I really did was I kind of looked at the bottom teams from last season, who I thought would have some, playability if a rookie comes into their squad, and then I started looking at the draft picks, and so I came up with Obi Toppin. Watched a couple of his highlight videos, and the kid looks athletic. He's got like a NBA size kind of body already. Yeah. He could put on a little bit more weight, but he's pretty athletic. He can kind of shoot, and he's playing for the Knicks. So it's he has a good chance to put up some numbers, and that's what I have for the Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah, he'll get minutes, like you said. He'll get the opportunity, but do you think Knicks will get enough wins ultimately to get the Rookie of the Year? It's usually somebody, who actually impacts their team. Well, let's see who's won in the last couple of years.
What about when Tyreek with Sacramento? He went 25-5, but did they even make the playoffs?
No, I don't think Rookie of the Year matters
like
with
that, right?
Yeah, I don't think it matters with your record. Like Ja won it last year, so it's
Rookie of the Year I don't think matters as much as MVP.
Yeah,
right.
Your record.
Right.
It's not as much expected of you, right? Like you can't just jump in as a rookie and change a franchise, right?
Exactly.
So if you're putting up numbers and your team kind of just sucks, you can still win it. But for MVP, you got to have a winning record at the very least, right? You got to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, you got to overachieve. You got to make your team overachieve because of you, right? But I don't know. Last year with Ja, right? Like they pushed. They were, they had an above average season for that team, right? They pushed to almost make the playoffs. So that was a pretty big push. Yeah,
it happened, but I feel like it's not a requirement.
Yeah, right. So who do you have for us? Rookie of the Year?
I went with Edwards just because, to be frank, I think Minnesota's still going to suck next year.
Yeah.
I think just like Dinyar when he said he looked at who was at the bottom last season. It's honestly, I think the shittier the team, the more opportunities they're going to have. I think Cat is going to have a lot to deal with this year, just because with the pandemic and everything, he's had a lot of family members pass away from it, unfortunately. I think mentally he might not be there, all be there. So, I could even see him maybe missing games here and there because of it. If something happens, I think the opportunity is just there for him to kind of showcase his abilities in Minnesota where, nothing is really expected right now. I mean, if they make a number 8 seed, that'd be unbelievable, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No chance it's happening this year.
No chance.
No chance.
Yeah, there's way too many teams.
It's a Cinderella story if they make the 8 seed. That's the
yeah, and get swept by the Lakers, exactly.
And get swept, yeah.
So, Chris, did you go about it the same way in terms of thinking wins don't matter, or who did you pick for Rookie of the Year?
I just picked somebody who I thought I've watched a little bit, just doing our draft analysis and everything. Killian Hayes, point guard for the Detroit Pistons. I really like his game. He's a James Harden-esque player without James Harden's full abilities, but he sort of plays like him, a bit more lanky, has a real nice step back. But on the Pistons, he's going to be the starting point guard for the whole year. I don't think he's going to miss any time, barring injuries. You're playing in front of Derrick Rose, who probably is a really good mentor for him. I'd say he's probably one of the best, like a Rondo-esque, this is what you do kind of thing. And I think if he can lead Detroit to a 10, 11, 12 seed, but like be solidly consistent the whole year, I think Killian would be able to be one of those players who could get the Rookie of the Year. He did have a really rough start to the preseason this year. They played the Knicks first, and he had 7 turnovers, which is pretty shitty for your first game in the NBA. But I think
Harden-esque though.
Yeah, James Harden-esque.
Oh, hey.
So I mean, he'll be running show in Detroit, and I think Detroit has a decent shot to do like damage in the 11-12 seed. So I think it's a bit better than being on the Knicks. So I mean, the rookie class is really weak this year. So anybody can potentially win it. But yeah, I got Killian Hayes getting Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah. And, in terms of the team's expectations, it's tough, right? Because I would assume Derrick Rose starts over a rookie. And then it really depends. Like, is Blake and D Rose going to stay? Or are they going to be flipped for assets? It really doesn't make sense for them to try this year.
Yeah.
Like with that roster, it doesn't make sense at all. But unless they're just getting no value back for Blake, I guess. But yeah, he looks promising. I saw a couple little highlights when you talked about him earlier. He looks nice and long. Maybe he's able to play alongside D Rose, but
I don't think D Rose is going to start, or like they're going to play Rose as much as Hayes, because Hayes is probably their building block for their future, and they want to see like Rose can be easily the first man off the bench, point guard backup, right? Just like he was in Minnesota, I think last year, or even Detroit last year. He was backup too. I think he was backup as well for some bits, but I think D Rose will be play the backup PG role, and I think they'll give Hayes the reign to the office. I think.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That'd be tough. Like D Rose, number 1 overall pick, former MVP, man. Like I think as a rookie,
youngest MVP. Oh.
Yeah, I think as a rookie, like if you're coming in behind D Rose, like that's a very safe spot to be. There's not a lot of expectations, and you just learn from one of those, like one of those pros, one of those vets who, like you said, have played those different roles. I think in Minnesota, it's comparable, but it's also different because he was behind like an actual vet, Jeff Teague, right?
Yeah.
Not like a full.
I think they flip Rose and Blake though. I think. Yeah. I think they're gonna get they're gonna get dealt by the deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Get some younger pieces or
it doesn't really make sense, like you guys were saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah. So for my Rookie of the Year, again, like you said, Chris, I think it's pretty much a wash. Like I think a lot of guys, probably like 10 guys, actually have a chance to win it. Whereas the last couple of years with Ja, it was like pretty obvious when Zion missed so many games. And to agree with you as well, DB, I haven't watched a lot of college ball, honestly, especially with like COVID. It's kind of been weird. So I picked somebody that I liked from draft night, which was Tyrese Halliburton. Went to Sacramento. He was maybe rumored to go like top 7, top 6, something like that, but he fell to somewhere like Sacramento, like where I think he has that opportunity to flourish. Like he's going to be alongside a very good guard in De'Aaron Fox, so he won't have to necessarily handle the ball. Buddy Hield is kind of his position as well, who's another pure shooter. Halliburton looks like he has a really good trigger, but he's long as well. He's kind of like a mix between Fox and Hield, obviously at a much lower level right now. And they still have what's their big guy, Bagley, as well, right? So there's a lot of pieces around that have more expectations, I think, and I think he'll be able to slot in and be an option for Fox to kick it to, like especially in transition. Should be a nice piece. And I don't know, Sacramento realistically can't do anything. I still think that wins matter a little bit, but for them maybe to be kind of hunting for the play-in tournament, and maybe he's averaging like 13 points a game off the bench or something like that in a very weak draft class, that might be enough. But moving ahead, Chris, who did you have as your coach of the year? There's been a lot of coaching vacancies, but also a lot of stars moving, trades happening as well. So different situations on teams. Chris, who did you come out with coach of the year?
I say Steve Nash. Steve Nash will be coach of the year. You have Kevin Durant on your team. So, I mean, if you have Kevin Durant on your team and you come out of the Atlantic quite strong with a strong record, I think Steve Nash deserves it. Like, you're controlling like one of the best player in the league, basically. If you can manage him quite well throughout the season, I feel like if he stays injury free, Brooklyn will have a great record this year. And that will lead to Nash getting that, that coach of the year. That's
Right.
really the only person I can think of. I don't think anybody else. There might be some dark horse team that like comes out of nowhere and does some damage, and then that guy will get coach of the year. But I think if everything goes as planned, I think Steve Nash gets it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on that
Yeah,
one.
Faraz, you want to build on that?
Yeah, I'm with Chris on that. I had the exact same thing. It's just that it's Brooklyn right now. That environment is like built for this. You know, like KD's coming back. Like Chris said, if they stay injury free, just that whole situation is bred for Steve Nash to get coach of the year. They're not going to end up with a bad record. I think they have to end up the top 2 seed. I don't think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the East. I think Milwaukee is still a better season team, like, you know, for a full season. Brooklyn still, they got to mesh together. You know, they still got to, every player's got to learn each other still. Kyrie and KD, playing with them is going to be hard. But I can easily see them coming in that number 2 seed. If that happens, 100%. I think it's just, they want to give it to Nash. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? It fits just like a very nice storyline, you know.
Everything is just the way it's worked out. It looks like it would just be, if it doesn't go that way,
yeah, exactly. And you know, he has a lot of pieces there. So you know, if you know, obviously we're expecting all 4 of us are expecting a lot from KD this year, like confidently, and I think the rest of the league is as well. So if he performs to that with Kyrie, and then somebody like Levert or Joe Harris or Jared Allen or Dinwiddie, they take a leap, then it all looks like Steve Nash did all this work and finally put things together, right? So 100% I could see it. Super interesting. That would be, I think, the first time where it's like a first time rookie head coach wins coach of the year. I could be wrong about that, but
no, I think Steve Kerr did it.
Steve Kerr did it, right?
No, Steve Kerr won it on the 73-9 year. That wasn't his first year, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it was his first year. Okay.
Yeah, Steve Kerr won 73-9, yeah.
Even if he didn't win it, it seems like the same process, basically.
Yes.
Like this
same
Steve Nash thing and this, it looks like the exact same thing. It's like it's written. Like you take over a team that's primed and ready to go, and good things happen for you. So.
Right, exactly. And it seems to already have like a pretty good culture before as well, right? You know, so DB, who did you pick for your coach of the year?
Okay, so if I was gonna bet, like actually put money down, I would bet on Nash getting it and also winning the MVP. But I'm not going to go with that because I don't think that's the right way to go. I think it's too easy to just jump into a team with Durant and just kind of just get handed the coach of the year. So I wanted to kind of involve Westbrook, my favorite player, a little bit. So I'm going to go with Scott Brooks. Scotty Brooks is going to take it.
Nice.
I think that team has a good chance of making some noise in the East if they actually gel well together. And I think coming off with how they've actually been playing previously, I think Scott Brooks is going to get some notoriety off that as well.
Is he has he won it before?
Yeah. OKC.
Yeah, he won it with OKC. So it's gonna be hard for him to win it again, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I'm interested. I don't know the research, but I'm interested to see how many years in between winning coach of the year. That'd be interesting. For mine, I picked another not rookie head coach, but first year on this team, and with the fucking boss goat man himself, Van Gundy in New Orleans. They're a team that I think could. Again, there's a lot of expectation, I think, across like the basketball world for New Orleans because of the Zion factor. But I do think they have that potential, you know, barring injuries, to be kind of like a shocker team. You know, who knows? They potentially could be like a 5 or like a 6 seed kind of thing and like, you know, be a tough out or shock a team. So Van Gundy coming in with all that experience, I think all those young guys in that locker room are really going to respect somebody like Van Gundy. But because he knows, I think he's a player's coach. Like he knows how to get the best out of those players, right? He's going to be stuck firm on some particular things, and he's going to let them do their. He understands that he needs to let them do their thing as well, right? Like Alonzo Ball's, he needs to push it. He needs to do those things, right? Etc. Like Brandon Ingram. You need to let him go 2 or 3 possessions where he's the only one who touches the ball, breaks somebody down, tries to get to the rim. And we all love Van Gundy. I think all of you guys could see it happening. Anybody got anything else on Van Gundy potentially winning?
Yeah, I think he definitely has a chance of winning, and I would love for him to win it. I think it's big that he dealt with a diva like Dwight Howard for so long, especially when he was like in his prime as well. I think that's big, honestly. He knows how to, like you said, he's a player's coach. He knows how to deal with different personalities. So I think he's going to do really well with that team, and I hope Zion takes like a big leap forward this year as well. So
yeah.
I hope he does too, man. I just drafted in my fantasy league, so.
You better.
What pick did you take him?
Huh?
What pick did you take him?
Probably fourth round,
yeah. The next category or the next award was one of the harder ones for me to decide. I think I switched my decision a few times. Most improved player. That, again, I think is a wide open one this year with the COVID factor. You know, like somebody like a team that didn't come to the bubble. It's been 9 months of this person just being in their own world, just working out in the gym every single day, and we just haven't seen it. So that was a really hard one for me to pick. So Faraz, you want to start with your pick on sixth man?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, looking at my notes, it seems like me and you both picked Karis LeVert from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan of Karis for the past couple of years, especially when Brooklyn was in that kind of having no superstar phase, where it was just a bunch of guys grinding out. That's when he really started to shine. And so far, seeing them play right now, it looks like he's the leader of that second unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think down the stretch, last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, he's probably going to be in, man. I think he creates his own shot. He plays a decent defense. But I think when Durant sits, they're going to give a lot of the reins to him when he takes over that second unit. And I think that's a nice breeding ground for him to get that Sixth Man of the Year award.
Mm-hmm. Right. The reason mine is kind of, I'll put like a star next to it because it could also be Dinwiddie, in my opinion. So I think whoever they decide to end up coming off the bench, I think will end up being that player. But what I just realized for us is I introduced most improved player, and then we just started talking about sixth man. So that's hilarious.
Oh man, that's my fault, man. My fault. Most improved, man. Tyler Hero.
That's all good. We'll continue.
Let's go sixth man. Let's finish sixth man.
Yeah.
I think in the preseason, from what I've seen, they've both played 2 games, and they both have started one and come off the bench one with Karis LeVert and Dinwiddie. So I think it ultimately depends on how they stagger Kyrie and KD, because one of those other players will kind of be the second partner while the other star rests. So Karis LeVert likely the mini KD, so he'll probably play with Kyrie in the second unit. But it could be Dinwiddie as well, coming off the bench and playing with KD there. So either way, but I do think it will ultimately be LeVert. He's a player we've all liked for a few years. He's been in the league for a few years where he had a little more responsibility, and now he's just got can you imagine just hooping and you're like, hey man, KD and Kyrie are gonna come. You're like, okay. So I think he's just got room to grow. Against second units, he's going to cook them. That injury was still quite gruesome and quite scary. So hopefully, I don't know, mentally, KD has some wisdom for him there. But I think it'll be Karis LeVert. DB, you want to go ahead with your pick?
Yeah. I went with Dennis Schroeder. I've always liked this guy. I've liked him for a while in Atlanta and in OKC for sure. He showed how he can be actually basically a star himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's really close to being if he actually gets to start, I think he could be a great starter in the league on almost any team.
Mm-hmm.
But if they actually had to bring him off the bench, and with a winning record like the Lakers are going to have, the Lakers are for sure going to be a number 1-2 seed in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And to come off the bench for that team and put up numbers and have those easy lobs when you come into AD, that's going to be pretty nice for him. And Montrez as well, coming off the bench with them. That pick and roll is going to be pretty good for them. So I think Schroeder has a really good chance of getting the Sixth Man award this year.
Mm-hmm. How much, it really depends on rotation, like you said, but how much of a factor do you think it is that Trez will probably be like, top 5 as well, potentially stealing votes from Schroeder?
I think that's obviously it's gonna be there, that threat of it, I guess. But at the same time, I think if he outperforms Trez and you could clearly see who the man is on the second rotation, then it actually improves his chances of winning the MVP, right? Because if a top 5 guy is already on that team coming off the bench and this guy looks that much better than him, it might actually improve his chances.
Yeah, great point. Especially when the team's 2 stars are essentially that other guy's position, right? So he looks a lot better. But I originally put Schroeder as well. I think he's like, probably a favorite, but I was considering like their starting lineup and what they might actually settle into. And I think Schroeder might start. So I think he'll start too many games and like actually disqualify. So he's definitely up there if they do decide to bring him off the bench. But we'll see, I guess. He's definitely up there in terms of like the betting bets, like you said. So
Faraz and I were actually JT, Faraz and I were actually having that exact same conversation before the podcast today, actually. I was asking him, I'm like, do you think he's going to start too many games and not be able to get the 6th man? So that's the biggest question, right? If he does get to come off the bench, I think he has the best chance to win it. But you're right, he might just get disqualified within like the first 30 games of the season, 40 games of the season. He might just start starting.
Exactly, right? That will be kind of the only factor, right? Same with my choice there with Levert. So Chris, take us to your ghost pick.
I didn't write anything because I couldn't pick one. It's really hard, the 6th man, because especially going into a season of an unknown, you don't know who's coming off the bench, who's starting. Back at previous 6th man of the year awards, 5 out of the last 7 years, it's been either Lou Will or Jamal Crawford. So I mean, it seems like those are pretty 2 sure locks. Obviously, Jamal Crawford's not playing anymore, but I picked Lou Will as my 6th man of the year. I don't see anybody else like taking that consistent bench role away from and like bench prime scoring option away from Lou Will until like somebody's done it multiple times. Eric Gordon was probably another previous winner as well that I thought could work, but I guess now with Russell Westbrook gone from Houston and you have John Wall there, he's going to be, and if Harden leaves as well, Eric Gordon is going to be a starter. So that disqualifies him from that. Like 3-time 6th man of the year award winner Lou Will, I think that's going to be the 6th man of the year this year again.
So Chris, you almost view it more as like a vet role.
I don't think it's necessarily a vet role. I just think it's a very not lazy pick to pick Lou Will, but it's very safe. It's a safe bet. It's a very safe bet, as in like he is the prime scoring option off the bench for one of the top 3-4 teams in the West. And I don't think you can say that for many people consistently, because either consistently coming off the bench or consistently being this option that's a threat to score at any point. So I think if Lou Will has the same type of season he's had in the past, I think that's his award. They might name the award after him soon when he retires. But.
Like you said, it not only being like the top option off the bench, but also like actually productive. If you can average close to 20 points a game like he has been, he's definitely a favorite too. Great point. So jumping back to most improved player for us, who did you pick for that one?
Dude, my man Tyler Hero, man. To be honest, he wasn't. There you go, Chris.
All-star baby.
He was. The reason I actually ended up picking him for this was because of you, Chris. When you were talking about him potentially making the All-Star team, I kind of started looking at him a little bit more. I still don't know if he'll make an All-Star team this upcoming season, but I definitely can see him making that leap offensively to be able to get the most improved player. Miami didn't really pick up any big offensive pieces this offseason. They're essentially the same team except with Avery Bradley and a couple of other guys, but those are all like defensive pieces. Jimmy's shown that he doesn't really care about scoring, so I think Tyler does. So I think he's primed to take that step this season, the next step. And if he ends up averaging like 17, 18 points a game, like close to 20, I can definitely see him walking away with the MIP.
Yeah, especially if he's doing it efficiently from 3, right? If he's shooting, 43% from 3, definitely a factor. I heard something where he potentially could be the leading scorer for the Miami Heat at the end of the season. You know, he could be. You know, you never know. It likely would be Jimmy or Bam, but you never know. He could be, right? Just based on that system and how much, like you said, he grows into this position. I think the only kind of thing hurting him from that is the fact that he was, you know, he's technically going into his second year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they tend to not give it to those players who are that young, but you never know. They could.
It could happen, man.
Yeah, definitely it could. Like you said, if he jumps up into being like a legit, you know, like Luka arguably could have been most improved last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he just went from his second to his third year. So, DB, who did you pick? One of my personal favorite players. Yeah.
Yeah, really? Yeah. So I picked Jeremy Grant. Again, I've liked this guy for a while. I liked him in OKC a lot. He's got that bounce to his step. He's the type of player that really works hard, crashes the boards, just plays with high energy. And he actually turned down the same deal, I believe, with the Denver Nuggets to go to Detroit. Mm-hmm. So they matched his offer, but he decided to go to Detroit. And that shows me that he really wants to be the guy on the team. He wants to get more touches. He wants to be able to, you know, move into that scoring lead a little bit as well. I think like he averages like 11 or 12 points per game. And I think he really has a chance to move up into that like 18 to 20 points per game with Detroit. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big leap for him. And yeah, maybe that'll be the guy that takes that leap.
Yeah, I really like Jeremy Grant. I think everything you said, I agree with in terms of him wanting a bigger role. You know, I think just the narrative was Michael Porter Jr., right? And he's like, okay, well, that's my starting position. So, yeah, exactly. Him going to Detroit, I think Detroit has more of like a long-term idea of what's going on there. So I don't think what we see right now will be obviously their team moving forward, potentially, like we said, moving Blake and stuff. So him as that small forward, power forward, small ball power forward kind of, I really like his shooting ability, his length. He definitely could win.
I think JT, with him, I think once Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose get shipped off, that's when he's going to take his leap. I think he's going to sit in the background, like third option type of thing, maybe even second option. But I think if they ship both those guys off, he'll be primed for like that first scoring option. And I think that's when he'll probably level out and then spike in usage after the trade deadline, probably.
Right. Yeah. Great point. And I think everybody has short-term memory, right? So whoever's hot at the end of the season might just win it, right? So, Chris, take us through surprising pick from you.
Yeah, my most improved player this year is OG Anunoby from the Raptors. Yeah. Last season, he did show that he was quite decent for the Raptors, I'd say, especially in the bubble. He did hit that game winner against the Celtics, which sucked, but it was quite impressive to watch. I think his bubble performance was quite promising in the fact that if he keeps that momentum up going into this year, I think he'll be quite a dominant force on that Raptors team. Nobody was really talking about him in depth through like national media coverage. Like I was living in Toronto, so I was hearing it every single day. Oh, OG this, OG that, but it wasn't really leaving the city of Toronto. It was just their bias, I guess you can say. But now just like watching it from afar, watching a couple preseason games against the Hornets this year, like I think he's going to take a huge step this year. I think he can become the number one option on that Raptors team. Yeah, I don't think Siakam will make that big of a jump. I think OG is going to make that like bound, like the stride compared to like Freddie obviously is going to be good. Lowry is good. Who knows what's going to happen with him, but I don't think Siakam is going to be getting any better. And I think OG is going to take that leap and become that guy on the Raptors team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, OG is another one of those guys that I was really impressed with. Like you said, Chris, I honestly forgot about his bubble performance until you recapped it. But I watched those preseason games against the Hornets, and just physically, he looks bigger too. Hey, yeah. He looks like he's filled out like a little bit more. He looks stronger, just as athletic. But it looks like mentally, he's turned it on a little bit more, where he just overpowers people, and he's playing against obviously all these prospects for the Hornets. But yeah, he just looked like a man out there, and I've always liked him. in terms of his versatility. You know, he's a defender. I think all of us like those guys who play D as well. But I think, yeah, you're right in terms of no media attention, right? He's also like technically an international player. He's from England, I believe. So, yeah, we got a lot of it up here in Canada, being force fed on TSN and whatnot. But he definitely could, yeah.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy comparing like being back in Vancouver now. Like we do get a lot of Raptors and Canadian basketball coverage through like TSN and all that. But living in Toronto, it's 10, 15 times stronger just from like walking around, seeing the like news stations on TV and all this stuff is just amplified to another level where it's like insanely not biased, but insanely like pro Raptors, even more than it is across the rest of the country, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's just being force fed, right? And they've actually turned into a very nice franchise, but it's the fact, like, I feel like it's being put out there with like ignorance, you know, it's not actual basketball community that's doing it, right?
Yeah.
You know, we all respect them obviously as an organization now, and they all have individually very good players, but yeah. Anyways, we could probably go on it.
We could have a whole Raptors episode, man.
Yeah. Fuck the Raptors episode. So probably obviously MVP is left, but the next maybe most exciting or top tier award, Defensive Player of the Year. Another one where it's a lot of repeat winners. You know, I think Rudy's back to back for that one. I see none of us picked him, which is great. DB, why don't you go ahead with your pick?
Fingers crossed it's not Gobert again, man. I don't want to see a volleyball player continuously winning basketball awards. I really don't want to keep seeing that, man.
Yeah.
But let's move on to who I have. I have AD winning it. I honestly considered Anthony Davis for the MVP award as well, which is kind of hard, right? But I don't think he's going to get the MVP just because LeBron's there as well, and they're going to share a lot of the responsibility. Even though I think this year LeBron's going to maybe take a little bit of a step back and let AD kind of take the lead a little bit more even. I think they're a little bit more secure in knowing that their team could actually win, and they've gelled a little bit moving into the playoffs. So I don't think he has to force that role anymore, LeBron, and he'll let AD kind of take over a little bit at times.
Yeah.
But defensively, AD's always been one of the best defenders in the league. Mm-hmm. Since he's come into the league, he's been a rim protector, and he's somewhat agile for how big he is as well. So you could kind of step out and bluff and recover, do all that good stuff. I think if the Lakers have a really good season, which I'm really anticipating they will, he'll get a good look for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, man, he's super versatile. Obviously, he's been one of the best players since he pretty much entered the league. But like you said, the kind of progression of LeBron's career and the mentorship that's going on right now, and this kind of like 2, 3, 4 year transition of handing AD the keys, he's definitely going to take a bigger role in the regular season, at least, right? This is a regular season award. He's, probably going to be averaging close to 30, I would say. He's going to get a shit ton of minutes. And the fact that, he's your small ball center or your power forward, how confident are you, switching him onto, let's say, Dame or, CJ McCollum or, one of these smaller guards? You're pretty damn confident compared to your other options in the league, right? Like he's gonna, like you said, DB, he's agile enough to kind of get a hand up and stay within and potentially block it and go down and put it on your head on the other side. So
Dame would cook on that.
Yeah, like 9 out of 10 possessions, but if it's a switch at the end of the shot clock, like I'm very confident in switching that.
Realistically, you never want to put any big man on Dame ever. You're never going to make that an option. But I mean, it's better than nothing, right? At least
it's better than nothing. But I don't know. I don't know if I would be like very confident because legit, I think Dame would still cook him. Like 8 out of 10 times he'd cook him.
Yeah, but
I don't know. But I'm biased.
The option is Caruso trying to battle over a screen. Yeah, I'm confident with AD, man.
Yeah, me too.
Chris, no surprise here. You want to take us through your pick?
It's about damn time Marcus Smart gets respect and gets his Defensive Player of the Year. I personally think this is the year. He's had the momentum for the last 2 years, getting that first team All-Star, or first team Defensive Player, all defense. it's time for a guard. I've said this before. It's time for a guard to win this award again. It has been many, many years since the guard has won it. This year, especially with the way the condensed season works, I think big men are very susceptible to injuries and resting. So I think the more games they take off, the less chances they should technically have to win this award. Like you look at Giannis, you look at LeBron, you look at AD, you look at even Bam. Like other than Giannis, the rest of them played until mid-October. So that first month or so of the season is going to be very iffy for those players who probably have a really high chance to get Defensive Player of the Year. But I really hope they take into account who plays the games, who plays hard, like not just stats wise. I really hope they switch it up a bit and actually watch the games and like see how players affect the game in general, not just affect the game through their blocks, through their steals. So like my fingers crossed it is Marcus Smart. I think he is a 2-time first team all defense. So it's only prime to take the next jump to Defensive Player of the Year. Fingers crossed it'll happen. If he has a year like he's had the last couple of years in terms of defense, I think he's with Kemba being out as well. He's going to take an even bigger role on the Celtics team. So we'll see. But yes, I'd say Marcus Smart's my Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. Honestly, you make a lot of good arguments. I do think just overall, like the game is transitioning to like a more guard-centric league, obviously. But I think the value still lands with like those bigs who are versatile enough to also guard guards, right? Like Marcus Smart, he's an unbelievable
what about
player.
The guards that are more versatile to guard the big men? Like Marcus Smart guards 1 to 5. I personally think he's not locks down, but like handles Giannis.
1 to 5.
Okay, he can on a
he can't play.
So
this goes back to the Dame and AD one. So it's like imagine Embiid gets it in the post against Marcus Smart.
Exactly.
It's like
the way Marcus Smart will guard him will make sure Embiid either doesn't touch the ball, which doesn't even show up on the stat sheet. You know, so that takes.
No, you're right. He does a lot of stuff off the ball.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff off the ball that never gets seen. But you got to understand also the voters are not going to be the most astute basketball like mine.
That's what I'm saying. That needs to change.
I'm 100% with you on that. But just knowing how the voters are going to work, they're going to go with someone that's in the spotlight and has good stats. That's how it usually is, unfortunately. But that's just how it usually is.
Yeah, like obviously a ton of respect to Marcus Smart. I think you said not using such a stat-based system of picking. Maybe the advanced analytics can help, because when it's like, when Kawhi matches up with Marcus Smart, he's X% from the field or something like that, right? That could potentially sway. My point I was trying to make was, I think it's more, I see how he could be obviously a top choice for it, but I think there's more value in a player who can do other things better, right? Like obviously Marcus Smart can guard a 4 or a 5, but like my pick, Bam, can guard a 5 and a 4, but he can also guard he can guard guards better than Smart can guard a big, is pretty much what I'm trying to say. But I think in terms of where I'm actually trying to go at this point, it not being Rudy Gobert, is you can't be somebody who gets played off the floor in the playoffs and still be somebody who's a Defensive Player of the Year.
Exactly.
Like that's absolutely embarrassing. That shows, DB, like you said, that there's not a lot of research that goes into it. You have somebody who got spun on his head twice in a row by Steph, literally spun in circles, and now you go into his series against Denver, and he literally cannot play because he's an absolute liability. So I hinted there, Bam is my choice. I think he legit can guard 1 through 5. I think he's most comfortable probably guarding 3 through 5, something like that. But he's somebody who I think takes pride in his defense, like Marcus Smart, and not as much as AD. Honestly, I think he's more focused on defense than he is on offense. So, Faraz, why don't you reinforce what I'm trying to say there with Bam?
Yeah, man, for sure. To be honest, if I hadn't picked, the reason I picked my MVP pick is why I picked Bam as my Defensive Player of the Year award, or else I think I had AD in there as well for me to be the Defensive Player of the Year. But I ended up going with Bam, mainly because of what he showcased against Milwaukee in the playoffs. playing Giannis.
Mhm.
I think that really helped his case. People kind of like realized like, oh wow, maybe they have the perfect player like to defend that kind of player. I think, and like you said, like he seems to care more on defense than he does on offense.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big factor. And I mean, I don't think it's tough. He can't guard I don't think he can guard a one like consistently. But like you said, I think he's comfortable 3 to 5, and on occasion getting switched on to a 2. Like you would live with it, right? Which is still unbelievable to have, and that's your center. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if he's matching up with like a CJ McCollum, like
you'll live with it on an occasional possession, but
yeah.
But no offense, but I think CJ most of the time, like on the majority of possessions, CJ will still cook him. Yeah.
Faraz, do you see with these big men? Do you see them chasing 2s and 1s off screens? Like they're just switching off, and as the 2s and 1s are going 1-on-1 against them, so it's sort of easier to guard because you're just playing 1-on-1 with somebody. Like if you're chasing somebody around a shooter around, like you're not guarding. Like Bam is not guarding Clay, coming off ball screens and stuff. So like it's sort of hard to judge that way, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I also don't say anything with your case with Marcus Smart, because I do agree. Yeah, like Marcus Smart's an unbelievable defensive player. Yeah. But unfortunately it's always skewed when those big men can do those other little. It's always like that.
It's the highlight reel plays, man. That's what it's people who vote look for. You know?
Yeah.
You got to understand, like no one cares about the play that didn't allow a play to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no one even sees that. Like no one even understands that Marcus Smart didn't allow Embiid to get behind him to catch that lob behind him. Right? He bodied up for a good 20 seconds and just put his body into him just to not let him get there. Right? But no one sees that play never happened. It doesn't matter.
There's no stat for that, you know?
Yeah, not yet, at least, I guess. Something small, right? Where most big men will probably let Embiid trot down to the low block and then they make contact, where Marcus Smart will be legit like putting all his weight on him, like at the 3-point line, not even letting him get there, right? So by the time he catches it, he's, I don't know, 23% more tired. I don't know. But somebody like Embiid, I don't think there's anybody that can like confidently guard him. Like with Bam, I think he's not big enough. So that makes more of an argument, I think, for AD. But Giannis proved it. He can win defensive player and MVP in the same year. So maybe AD will end up getting both. You never know.
It could happen.
And then I guess the main award, MVP, a lot of favorites right at the very top with, I think Luka, AD, and Giannis are probably like the consensus favorites, but I think there's a lot of other players that are in the perfect situation to explode this year as well, that just like Chris always says is not in the media attention, right? So in terms of the favorites, I went with one of the favorites in Luka. I think he's one of those transcendent players, like we all agree. I think the reasons are endless, and I think we all agree on them anyway. So there's no part really harping on them. But I play with him a lot in 2K, so I think he will end up being the MVP, especially if Kristaps ends up going down and they still end up being like maybe like a 4 seed or something like that. He's just shown that he can get better every single time, and that he's not scared to take everything on his shoulders. So, DB, you want to add a little bit on Luka and then take us through your other pick?
Yeah, Luka was actually one of the main people that I thought about when this came up, right? MVP, I just thought Luka right away. He can do everything. He could score, he can rebound, he can pass the ball. His court vision is amazing. And then for a superstar like him, he actually tries extremely hard on the defensive end as well, right? Like he's going to, he just goes so hard. I love his competitive nature. I think he has a really, really good chance to take that Dallas team to, like you said, a 4 spot, maybe even a dark horse 3 spot would be pretty crazy for them. Yeah. But because you picked them, I went with maybe my second favorite in AD. I think like all the reasons I gave in the Defensive Player of the Year award, basically, that's going to add on to it. I think LeBron is going to give him the keys to the team pretty soon. And this is going to be the first year where he's going to really trust him to take on more of that scoring lead as well. So I think Anthony Davis is going to average something like 30, 14, and like 6. Like, I think he's going to have like one of those like really, really good seasons, and he's going to be efficient, right? He's not one of those guys that needs a lot of touches to get that kind of production, right? So I think he has a really good chance, especially if the Lakers land that number 1 seed again.
Yeah, great point. I think this is kind of a perfect situation with the short offseason where LeBron really, really takes a step back and averages something like 14 points and like 13 assists. and 4 of those are just easy lobs to AD, where you said it's super efficient. He's always going to get to the line a lot. And, with LeBron maybe potentially, who knows, sitting out every 7th game or something like that, and he actually has to not just take the main scoring role, but actually lead his team, and maybe starting that from the defensive end and kind of working up in transition. And he's a very finesse type player, right? So against the main crop of the league, obviously he's super elite, right? In the playoffs, we saw it was a little bit harder, not hard for them. They still won quite easily, but there's a little more resistance, obviously, with the upper echelon. But you wrote KD there. You meant AD?
Yo, you know what, man? I am tripping. I had AD for my defensive player of the year, KD for my. I'm so tripping. I'm looking at Faraz's. All right, yo. I got KD for the exact same reasons that I had AD. Because they're once in a generation those type talents, man. No. I think I put KD because I had AD as the defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
So I went with KD, and the reason is you guys all know KD. You guys all know what he's capable of. In my opinion, I've said this for the past 3 years now. He's the best player in the league, period, when he's healthy. I think he is the best scoring option on any team ever, pretty much, other than Jordan, in my opinion. And I think him coming back to that Brooklyn team that really didn't do much last season, if they can make some noise and get into that like number 2 seed, like we talked about, behind Milwaukee, I think he has a really good chance.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think we can all agree on KD. Or AD, realistically. Faraz,
either one, man.
Faraz, you did choose AD. So anything that we missed that you wanted to add?
Well, I don't know, man. DB made my case for me pretty well, to be honest.
There you
go, spokesman. Apart from what all the great things Dinier said, I do think I think LeBron's going to gift AD the MVP this season. I think LeBron is going to hype the media attention around AD. I think you're going to hear LeBron mentioning it a lot more. I think you're every time they're interviewing, LeBron's going to go to him. I think he's going to do everything he can to just make sure AD gets this year, and I think his numbers will support that, because I think he will be averaging a lot more points, because I think LeBron's probably going to average 18 to 20 and like 13, 14 assists, like you said. I think he's going to be more of that, just passing. Like, just come on, man, just make this 3. Like, just hit it. Like, like, I'll do all the hard work. Just hit it.
Yeah. Sure.
But no, I think it's prime. They're going to win it again, in my opinion. So I think it'll just be perfect. And then in the playoffs, maybe LeBron takes Finals MVP. Who knows?
Just out of respect, right?
Yeah.
Like those are kind of the favorites there. Luka, AD. Giannis, he's going to be one of the favorites, but I don't think he'll be the first ever 3-time MVP. So let's kind of scratch him off of there. A potential team that can overachieve, like I said a couple times, to potentially make the 2 seed and have not necessarily a dark horse MVP, but somebody out of the top 2-3 favorites in Dame up in Portland. So Chris, make your point there for Dame.
Yeah, I think the league has put respect on his name now. I think he was the bubble MVP or whatever, the little Disney trophy. But I think Dame's going to come out with a vengeance this season. I don't think he's into the whole resting as much as the rest of the league. I really wanted to go with Luka. I still think Luka probably will get MVP. But when you look at this season compared to every other season, it's so different in terms of short off season, very condensed schedule. You're playing 3 to 4 games a week. And they even put out like that document that said you're allowed to rest these games. You're not allowed to rest these games. Like the national TVs, you have to play. You can't, but you can rest. Like it's like they're saying don't rest, but you can legally do it kind of thing now. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of those stars are gonna take the time off. And I think out of all years, this is the year where somebody other than the top 4 or 5 players in the league will win it, just based on they're playing every game compared to sitting out 10, 12 games out of a shortened season anyways. Yeah. So I think Dame will turn it into high gear right off the start. I think he'll be probably front runner for an MVP right off the bat, I think, in a few games. And then obviously everybody else will catch up once they start playing full-time minutes, start playing every single game closer to the middle of the season. But I think Dame will then take that next step up, especially if they stay healthy and they can, like you said, get that 2 seed. I believe Dame will bring them the MVP back to Portland, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think that's possible. They're definitely going to be a team that's better than their record last year. You know, they played most of the regular season injured and just flourished in the bubble when they actually had their team. And now they've added a couple more pieces. I really hope he wins it, right? Like, I love Luka, but I think there's a lot of MVPs in his future. I really hope Dame wins it because I don't think LeBron's realistic. So yeah. I can vote for somebody else. But Faraz, you want to reinforce any points there on your favorite player in the league?
Man, that's a great dark horse MVP pick there. Because I know we've all talked about this before, but yeah, if Portland does get that number 2 seed, I can see this but to be honest, Dame would have to be averaging he averaged like 30 plus. He'd have to have one of those
do you think he can average 28 and 5 threes a game and just be that guy? Because you're averaging 30 plus, you're not going to give it to Harden, you're not going to give it to Giannis. AD and Luka are probably to the front 2, and then who's next is Dame potentially. Yeah.
As a 3 seed or something like that, I could see it for sure.
I feel like if they're gonna consider a player like Dame with a pool that talent heavy already, he's got to do something ridiculous. He's got to have a season like Kobe did, where he had a 5-6 game stretch where he averaged 45 points a game.
Yeah,
which he's gonna have to do, which he easily could. Yeah, I've always said one of the players that could that could maybe even tie Kobe's 81 would be a guy like Dame who could just go off.
Yeah. But he's also that guy that does, out of the other favorites, he doesn't have that second superstar next to him, right? Giannis now has legit help, and obviously AD has Braun. But DB, just before we finish here, it's crazy to talk about MVP without mentioning Harden, which you can talk about that if you want. But what about a Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double and taking the Washington Wizards to a 5th seed, 4th seed, something like that?
Yeah, man. I don't see it happening like that. I mean, even if he does, I don't see them giving him another MVP.
Okay.
I think Westbrook is, unfortunately, in the eyes of the NBA, on his way downwards in his career. Yeah. So I don't think they want to hype up players like that. I think they would rather hype up a player like a Luka, right? Which is going to be a franchise type player. It's going to be a face of an NBA type player. So for that reason, I don't think he really has that kind of chance. And he's already done it before, right? He's already had, years where he's averaged a triple-double. So it's not as shocking or surprising anymore, right? So I feel like that kind of plays against him, right? It's kind of expected. 28, 9, and 9 from him is kind of expected on any given season. So right. That's an okay season.
Yeah.
He's getting basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Anything less is just disappointment. So the next time, you guys, this is really exciting. The next time that we talk on this podcast, there'll be live NBA that we've already watched. So it's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Next season, obviously, we're going to talk about the opening night games, which is Golden State and Brooklyn, and then Lakers Clippers. So hopefully we'll have a lot of content. I'm sure everybody will play. So that'll be super exciting. Any last closing words before we take off?
Let's get the season going.
Yeah, right.
Raptors suck. Yeah.
Come on, man. Now let's get the season going. And tonight, I'm gonna take Carmelo Anthony with the number 1 overall pick. It's gonna happen.
Obviously, referencing our fantasy draft that we got going on tonight. hopefully a good opportunity for the Hoop Session boys, because we got a few newbies into the draft pool this year who have absolutely no idea about basketball, who are purely analytics guys. So hopefully, like I was trying to convince Kevin to take Jordan first overall because he's the best. So.
DeAndre Jordan, though.
Either way, take him. Either way. All right, boys. Appreciate it.
Cool.
See you next time
All right,
when we talk about live NBA basketball. Peace.
So, fellas.
Mwah. Take care, guys.
Thanks for stopping by to sesh with us. If you like what we're doing, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, tell your neighbor, tell your dog. Peace.